to you, Mr. Chief Secretary. Good afternoon, everyone. On Wednesday, the Chief Executive delivered the 2025 policy address. It has outlined a clear and robust blueprint for Hong Kong's future development. Today, together with the three secretaries here, I will introduce the key policy initiatives concerning education, talent, labor, youth, and community care. Education is the cornerstone for nurturing future pillars of our society. In this year's policy address, a number of measures are proposed for the development of Hong Kong into an international education hub. The Northern Metropolis University Town is a key engine for the development of the Northern Metropolis. We have reserved 90 hectares of land. Industry-led approach, align with national strategies, and do it step by step. Advance the strategically significant projects. For the first stage of land in Conf, site promotion Hong Kong can make use of the supplementary labor scheme while we combat abuse of the scheme. Targeted poverty alleviation has been a consistent strategy of this current term government. In the coming year, we will enrich the activities to be organized and described in WISE Alumni Club. We will introduce 6 more community living rooms. We will encourage more schools to take part in the school-based after-school care service. We will also inject funds to the child development fund to help the underprivileged. These measures are to empower those who are in need of help themselves and to support those who are providing young
Thank you so much. I will now highlight key education-related initiatives in this year's policy address. With the rapid development of education, Hong Kong is entering a golden era for education. We must seize this opportunity and leverage our strength to equip the younger generation to face the future, contributing to the development of both Hong Kong and the nation. At present, Hong Kong is the only city in the world with 5 universities ranked among the global top 100. 4 of our universities are listed among the top 10 most international institutions, and 6 academic disciplines have made the global top 10. These achievements affirm the quality and strength of Hong Kong's education system, highlighting the advantages of one country, 2 systems. A dedicated task force for study in Hong Kong will be established to strengthen collaboration with relevant policy bureaus. A large-scale promotional campaign will be launched with strategic outreach plans and joint overseas missions by universities to promote the study in Hong Kong brand. The goal is to attract top-tier teaching and research talent as well as students from both mainland and abroad to pursue education and research in Hong Kong. High-value study tour Hong Kong initiative will be introduced to invite local secondary school students to experience Hong Kong firsthand. Additionally, the UGC will allocate $14 million to support 8 publicly funded universities in expanding their promotional efforts both internationally and in the mainland. In view of the significant increase in applications from non-local students, local institutions have admitted self-financing non-local students beyond the regular quota. We will raise the cap on non-local student admissions from 40% to 50%. For publicly funded research postgraduate programs, the cap on self-financing ambitions beyond the regular quota will also be increased from 100% to 120%. These adjustments aim to support the expansion of post-secondary institutions, enhance quality, and foster a more international and diverse campus environment, further advancing Hong Kong's development as a global hub for post-secondary education. I'd like to reassure local parents and students that the adjustment will not affect local students' opportunities for admission. The annual quota of 15,000 publicly funded places for local students remains unchanged. The number of places available for local students in funded programs will not be reduced. Universities will adopt a prudent and responsible approach, admitting non-local students beyond the quota only when conditions permit and teaching quality will be maintained. Tuition fees charged will be set at a level sufficient to cover all additional direct costs, ensuring the proper use of public funds. The development of the Northern Metropolis University Town will provide additional land for post-secondary education sector, creating space for Hong Kong institutions to expand their academic and research activities. In alignment with the government's creation of the Committee on the Development of Northern Metropolis and the Working Group on the Planning and Construction of University Town, the Bureau will participate in a working group to accelerate the development of the town. Regarding student accommodation, in response to the rising number of non-local students, we will supplement the Student Hostel Development Fund with market-driven solutions to expedite the supply. Measures include enhancing the convenience of hostel in the city scheme, which now covers redevelopment of old commercial buildings into brand-new student hostels. In terms of basic education, the government supports the robust development of the international school sector to meet the demand for school places from non-local families, thereby attracting and retaining global talent. Furthermore, the government will support primary and secondary schools in contributing to the development of Hong Kong as an international education hub. As a pilot initiative, the Education Bureau will allow DSS schools to apply for an increase in number of classes and students per class, enabling them to admit non-local students holding student visas. The DSE has gained widespread recognition. We will continue to promote HKDSE through various channels, both locally and internationally, further enhancing its global acceptance and expanding higher education pathways for candidates. In response to the advent of AI and in alignment with the national strategy of revitalizing the country through science and education, we will further enhance the digitalization of education. This includes reserving $2 billion under the QEF to support digital education in primary and secondary schools. In 2026, we will publish a digital education blueprint for primary and secondary school, which include enhancing the curriculum that bridges primary and secondary levels in information and innovation technology, establishing a framework for AI literacy, integrating AI education into core curriculum, strengthening AI training for teachers, introducing corporate resources to support implementation. We'll also review the curriculum design to nurture more students in these fields. The fundamental mission of education is to cultivate virtue and character. We will, the Love Our Home, Treasure Our Country series will be regularized and expanded. These will strengthen cross-school and cross-sector collaboration, helping students to deepen their national identity. The Senior Secondary Chinese History and History curriculum will be enhanced, and Mainland Exchange Study Tour will include red resources to enrich students' understanding. We will place strong emphasis on students' physical and mental well-being. We institutionalize a 3T emergency response in secondary school. We will continue to promote the 4Rs mental health charter across campuses and expand parent education. Through cross-departmental collaboration, schools will be provided with more services, activities, and programs to strengthen their resilience. Teachers are the cornerstone of education. The government is committed to enhancing the quality and professional ethics of teachers. In response to the rising societal expectations, we will review the teacher registration system to ensure that it remains relevant and upholds professional standards. Through amendments to the teachers' registration mechanism under the Education Ordinance, we will introduce a practicing certificate requirement to ensure all teachers employed in Hong Kong schools are suitable and qualified. Education is the foundation of long-term development and the key to nourishing talent. We will continue to enhance the quality of education, cultivating young people to become lifelong learners who are virtuous, capable, responsible, visionary, and patriotic, driving Hong Kong's education towards high standards of excellence. Thank you.
Now, over to the Secretary for Labour and Welfare, please. Good afternoon, citizens and media friends. I'll spend about 5 minutes to tell you about the major policy initiatives on manpower, labour, social welfare, and poverty alleviation. On talent, as mentioned by the Chief Secretary just now, in the latest world ranking, we have climbed to the 4th spot around the world and first in Asia. This shows that over the past 2 to 3 years, we have achieved significant results in our talent policies. We will continue to build Hong Kong into an international hub for high-caliber talent. In terms of attracting talent, I understand that we are all very concerned about labor issues. I'll spend some time to talk about the policy address, that is, the measures proposed in the policy address to protect labor. These measures target 2 types of jobs, that is, junior cooks and waiters. I'll talk about why we have selected these 2 job types. Under the Enhanced Supplementary Labor Scheme, there are over 200 job types covered. We lack manpower for a lot of jobs. For the F&B sector, we need dishwashers. We need also those manning warehouses. For these job types, we see a long-term manpower crunch. However, for waiters and junior cooks, in terms of the application numbers as well as arrival numbers, they are among the top for these job types. For workers already in Hong Kong under the labor implication scheme, about 32,000 workers are imported. Half of them are in the catering sector, and among them half are working as waiters as well as junior cooks. That's why we think there is a need for us to impose a more stringent manning ratio requirement. And for the recruitment period, we will extend it from 4 weeks to 6 weeks. Also, employers who want imported workers will have to attend at least once a week a job fair at the Labour Department's job centres. Also, instead of looking at the number of posts, we look at specific posts. That means for every imported waiter or imported junior cook, you must employ or have already employed 2 local full-time junior cooks and 2 local full-time waiters. And for those who have already applied for a visa extension, even if they got the application before this rule takes effect, they will have to adhere to the same rule. That means if they fail to meet the manning ratio of 1 to 2, they will not be allowed to import workers for these 2 posts. This is to ensure jobs for local workers first. And also, there is a way for us to stringently gate when the schemes or the relevant rules are being complied with. And also, we will introduce a legislative proposal to improve the compensation mechanism for work injuries of digital platform workers. And also, we will continue to offer more courses that are skill-oriented for local workers. As for targeted poverty alleviation, this is close to many people's heart, and I want to mention one thing here. We're all concerned about the CSSA recipients for the elderly, of course. They may not be able to use the CSSA scheme. speaking. So depending on your situation, you may be able to get a few $1,000s of cash allowance if you have left the CSSA scheme. We want to, through the cash allowance, encourage more people to leave the CSSA. Now, I'd like to move on to elderly care, measures to support carers and persons with disabilities, and then lastly, measures for children. Every year, we increase the number of service places for elderly people. This year, we have added the places for residential care vouchers for elderly by 4,000. For newly developed districts with more middle-class people, we'd like to have more elderly care homes that are operated by community organizations. There's a sector for a district in Kayatak, and it has a lot of middle-class there, and we'd like to test out the new operational model there. Now turning to support for carers, over the past 2 years we've done a lot of work. We have the 24/7 1823 hotlines. We also have the dedicated portal for carers. We also have a territory-wide promotional campaign. Now we want to make use of big data analytics so that we can build a carer support database. And as mentioned by the Chief Executive, every year $500 million will be earmarked for this so that we can have enough resources to support carers. For the support for persons with disabilities, every year, again, we increase the number of service places for them. I'm not going to go into the details here. For measures for children, there is a measure for those aged between 0 and 3. We're also concerned about support for infants aged between 0 and 2. We believe that in the coming 3 years, there will be 15 new aided childcare centers, providing about 1,500 service places. We will focus on taking care of infants aged between 0 and 2. Lastly, for children with special needs, we have preschool rehabilitation services for those in kindergartens. This has been very successful and popular among parents and schools. We will enhance the scheme. For those who have been promoted to primary one, we will provide bridging support so that they can be better adapted to life skills. That's all from me. 可以介紹下我哋嗎？
We to outline the initiatives in FY18 to settle important youth development. So since we started our term, we announced the youth development movement. So the policy address, we will launch the youth talent development program. Over the past couple of years, we can see that young people have been really excellent in terms of their linguistic proficiency, their creativity, and so on. We do need to have a platform and offer more opportunity for young people to chase their dreams. So we put together this youth talent development program. It covers 4 areas. First, we will provide young people with more opportunities to participate in internships in international organization and international collaboration to broaden their global perspective. Second, we will provide Hong Kong youth with an opportunity to understand the media environment and industry operation in the mainland. Third, we will deepen the current youth financial education program. And finally, we will have the new mediation workshop to enable young people to master the basic concepts of mediation. We'll continue to promote exchange and internship for young people in mainland and overseas and encourage young people to come to Hong Kong. Next Saturday, on September 27th, we will be hosting the second Youth Development Summit, connecting the world and forging forward. key leaders in charge of youth policies in mainland Hong Kong and overseas, as well as leaders in the industry, will be invited to serve as guest speakers to share their valuable insights in technological innovation, cultural creativity, and unleashing the potential of young people. We encourage you to take part in this event. Last year's policy address proposed transforming the high-tech community isolation facility into a youth development facility. The HYAB has stepped up efforts to implement this project, with the youth hostel now operational since July this year. The hostel has hosted a number of youth activities and operating groups is preparing for its official opening this year. As for the community care, I will focus on the following areas. The first phase of the care team will end in late September and October this year. The care teams in each community have really completed their work according to the KPIs. As you understand, the care team members are all volunteers. They have actively engaged with the community residents. As of the end of August 2025, the care teams have visited approximately 580,000 elderly households and other residents in the youth development with approximately 89,000 rounds in household and other support services, and approximately 45,000 local activities. The team also provides support services during emergencies. To date, the team has been mobilized to assist in approximately 1,500 emergencies, assisting something like 500,000 people. Preparations for the second phase of the care teams are underway. We will fine-tune the system along three areas: continuous and uninterrupted services responsive to local needs, and deeper and broader coverage. To further tailor care services to local needs, the government has assessed the service coverage. 3 new care teams have been added based on local needs, bringing the total number of care teams to 455 across Hong Kong. Maintaining good building management is always the responsibility of the owners. The government's role is to play a facilitating role, assisting owners to fulfill their responsibilities in managing their buildings. The HAD's key initiatives in the coming year include: first, setting up a working group under the district councils. The group will be established in 18 district councils to allow councillors to discuss building management issues and share experience to enhance the effectiveness of the work. Second, we'll be co-organizing forums with the property management industry authority to allow all sectors to share best practices. Third, based on the effectiveness of the joint property management pilot program, it will be extended out to other regions. We will launch, or the HAD, in fact, launched the first phase of the program. It has been progressing pretty well. District organizations have contacted more than 100 buildings in total, of which 55 have signed letters of intent to participate in the pilot scheme, of which 13 have agreed to joint tendering and are currently preparing the joint tender documents with the hope of implementing joint property management as soon as possible. Fourth, the BMO will be reviewed, that's ICAP 344, to formulate proposals to further optimize the ordinance. The government is committed to building a harmonious, inclusive, caring society by providing appropriate services and support to ethnic minorities. The HAD provides various support services through 10 support service centers for EMs to help them integrate into the community. To further strengthen the services, the HAD will establish the EM care team in each of the 2 support service centers serving North District and Islands District in 2026 to cater for the expected growth. The HAD will also establish 1 more team in each of the 2 centers. And in these 10 centers, We will establish the youth networks and the women's networks to provide more services specifically for the ethnic minorities. The government will also open an EM interpretation and translation service center in December this year to alleviate the inconvenience faced by the EMs facing language barriers. The government is committed to promoting women's development, and we will consolidate resources and increase annual allocation to the Women's Empowerment Fund to $30 million. We just held the first Hong Kong Family and Women Development Summit last year, and we will organize more of the same following the 2024 summit, and the government will also host the second Hong Kong Family and Women's Development Summit next year. The Bureau launched its first She Inspires mentorship program this year, which received an enthusiastic response and successfully recruited 53 female leaders to serve as mentors and 83 mentees. To enable more female university students to participate in the program, the government will increase the number of mentees for the second cohort by 50% to 120. Thank you very much.
Now I open the floor for questions. Please ask questions related to the theme today. Please identify the organization you represent, and also please ask no more than 2 questions. The reporter on the right. Good afternoon, I'm from One Way Po. I have a question for Secretary Choi on digital education. It is said that a digital education blueprint will be promulgated next year. Do you have the relevant information that you can disclose? Also, how will you make use of the $2 billion of fund earmarked? Also, you said you will review the curriculum for senior secondary students. And what are your thoughts on the assessment system? Now, another question for Mr. Chris Sun about VPAT. What will be the arrangement for the graduates under the new VPAT scheme for the graduates? And also, how will they be able to look for jobs, and what are the employers' feedback on this? Perhaps I will first respond to the questions concerning education. On the $2 billion of fund earmarked under the Quality Education Fund, it is mostly to support the development of digital education. In the previous policy address, we announced the setting up of a steering committee overseeing digital education-related matters. We have been working very hard, and we want to respond to the latest trend of application of AI. In the blueprint, it will cover how we're going to improve AI education for primary and secondary students. We'll make sure that there will be good bridging support for these students. We'll also have an AI learning framework. It is a learning framework for students, and we'll also set out the arrangements for the professional training and development of teachers. We'll also encourage schools to make good use of the e-learning ancillary scheme. Now, on the senior secondary school curriculum, we want to make use of AI, and we want to equip our students with better knowledge in mathematics as well as science subjects, so that they can cope with the latest trend and they can adapt to the university learning environment. So it is mostly an adjustment to the structure. On VPAT, when we rolled out the scheme, we already had decided on the visa arrangement for students. This is a vocational and professional program. For those who intend to stay in Hong Kong, they'll have to study the related subjects. We want these students to stay in Hong Kong because we want to deal with the manpower crunch. So it is visa-free for those students who have graduated from the VPAD program to stay in Hong Kong. I believe it's not hard for students to look for jobs for VPAD graduates. This is because the program is exactly for the jobs which are seeing a manpower shortage in Hong Kong. I'd like to supplement. AI education is going to be a major policy initiative for us, as we know that AI has been widely adopted. Not only in science subjects, we can make use of AI learning for humanities subjects, for example. So the earlier our students get in touch with AI, the better. We do not want our students to fall behind other students, so they have to be familiar with AI. That's why we are sparing so much effort in incorporating AI learning into the curriculum. It will be a compulsory subject so that our primary and secondary school students will be familiar with this kind of skill as early as possible. The lady in blue and green over there. I'm from cable TV. I have a question for Dr. Christine Choi. You said you would review the teacher registration system. What will teachers have to do if their registration gets revoked? If their registration gets revoked, what will happen if they apply for registration again? Now, for non-local student places, the rate will be increased to 50%, while you said that admission for local students will not be compromised, but we only have limited resources. Will the increase in quota for non-local students have an impact on local students? And will you continue to increase the student quota for non-local students? Now we will review the teacher registration system, and we will consider introducing a practice certificate system. Well, teachers is a very professional job. We attach very great importance to teachers' professionalism and their code of conduct. Around the world, many professionals hold professional certificates. Given this trend, I believe that our teachers have to move with the times so that they can take care of the diverse needs of our students. This is in response to our community's aspiration as well as high expectation for the level of professionalism of our teachers. That's why we are introducing the practice certificate system. As for under what circumstances will teachers have their registration revoked? Last year, or perhaps 2 years ago, we already published a professional code of conduct for teachers, and it clearly sets out the 8 requirements for teachers. And it also sets out situations where teachers would commit misconduct or breach the rules. We have currently the registration system in place. Teachers have to hold a license, and so this is a comprehensive system. There will be warnings, there will be procedures to take follow-up actions, and for most serious cases, teachers may have their licenses revoked under the existing mechanism. As for the new practice certificate system, we actually hope teachers can move with the times. We hope that they can pursue professional development and training. We also have to look at the conduct of teachers to see whether they have breached any rules. For example, have they committed any crimes that they did not report? So all these are to protect the professional image of our teachers as well as to protect the well-being of our students. As for the increase of non-local student places, actually last year we proposed to increase it to 40%. This year we'll raise it to 50%. Last year, schools actually admit students in a very prudent manner, so the student quotas were not exhausted. We see that many non-local students are very keen to apply for enrollment in local schools, so we hope that post-secondary institutions would have bigger room to admit more students. Of course, this is just the ceiling. It is not a target for post-secondary students. If the relevant schools or institutions do not have the hostels or the teaching team, well, of course, it will take time for them to expand their team as well as the relevant hardware. Now we are raising the number of non-local students places to 50%. This is to give more flexibility to post-secondary education institutions so that they can make better long-term planning for themselves. As for whether this ceiling will be further enhanced, it will depend on the supply of student hostels as well as the progress of us building ourselves into an international education hub. Of course, there are measures to help speed up the building of hostel places. Perhaps I can supplement on the point about the practice certificate system. I believe we all agree that education is crucial to Hong Kong, and teachers are also crucial. So we care whether our teachers have reached a certain level of professional standards. Now, for this proposed registration system, say a teacher has possessed the registration and he or she has taught for a year, and afterwards, over a period of 10 years, the teacher stopped teaching and then he wants to work again as a teacher. Would the teacher have to, for example, pursue further studies before becoming a teacher again? This is what we care about. We believe that in order for teachers to attain a certain level of professionalism, we need to rely on the practice certificate system. And the purpose of this is not to give a hard time to our teachers. It is to maintain the level of professionalism of our teachers. That's our objective. And this certificate system has nothing to do with teachers' registration. The registration will remain valid for teachers even with the introduction of this new certificate system. We just want to make sure that teachers can maintain a certain level of professionalism. Same for social workers as well as lawyers. Where necessary, they have to take courses. Say, for example, when some of the teachers got their registration, there hadn't even been the technology of AI. So we need teachers to update themselves on this trend to maintain their level of professionalism. This is also to benefit our students. So please bear in mind that this new system is not to give a hard time to teachers.
Gentleman Brown, please.
TMHK. So first of all, about the increased non-local student quota in post-secondary education. So besides setting aside land for more bed places, how would the government address concerns such as the lack of space in the library and also that adjustments to class sizes may worsen teaching quality? So also there will be a study looking into improving the teaching registration mechanism. So any more details of what the study will be looking at? Thank you.
Okay, for the raise of the non-local students quota to 50%, actually, as I have just mentioned, that we are closely working with the UGC fund universities to make sure that the increased number of the non-local students will not affect the teaching quality and also the quota for our local students. Actually, the 15,000 first year, first degree quota keep unchanged. So I think we don't need to worry. And the universities will make use of the resources allocated to, or charge from the local students to upgrade the students, the university's facilities to employ more, to have strengthen their teaching faculties. So we can see this, they keep the high quality of learning and teaching, including hardware and software. And for the, as we just discussed in the previous question, how we enhance the registration mechanism for the school teachers, including impose the practicing cert to the teachers' registration or in the requirement to teach in school. Because I think I want to emphasize again, the practicing certificate is a positive and responsible step. It's not about distrusting teachers. It's about supporting them to be their best and ensuring every student gets the excellent education they deserved. It's how we keep the teaching profession strong, respected, and ready for the future. So we emphasize on the teachers' professional requirement, their relevant teaching experiences, and they keep their professional conduct.
好，下一位右手邊第三行黑色衫位。
The one in black on the third row. Ming Pao Daily, Secretary for Education, about this registration system. Now, let me put it this way. In the policy address, there is no mention anywhere in the policy address. Why is it mentioned only in the supplement and not so much in the policy address? Or is it the case that it is not, it doesn't warrant mention in the policy address as of now? That the CS mentioned that some teachers may be out of service for a long time and they would like to join the service again. Of the 160,000 registered teachers, how many teachers are out of service? Do you think that they should be updated? They should upgrade themselves before they join the profession? The teachers should have the most updated information. Why do you need this practicing certificate? Do you have any numbers for the teachers being struck off in 2025? Now, imported labour. The labour sector is crying foul about the unemployment situation in Hong Kong. Can you apply the ratio of 2 to 1 to all the jobs, or can you have a short-circuit mechanism? Why don't you consider more rigorous measures? And also on carers, I know that the administration would like to give the best possible support in the policy address. It is silent on any new measures to provide support to the carers. Do you think that the existing services are good enough? That you may have the $500 million budget. Are you going to be ramping up the level there? Now, let me say this first. What I said was no more than an example. I'm not suggesting there are many teachers like this. I'm just citing an example. Yes, and you mentioned why this doesn't appear in the policy address but only appear in the supplement. The Chief Executive's policy address covers the policies across different bureaus. It is important to get the message across. As the CS said a moment ago, there may be some examples of teachers being out of service for 10 years. That is no more than an example. The requirement of a practicing certificate is intended to make sure that the teachers would move on with the times. Now, in the teaching profession, people are there for years, decades on end, and they would devote their whole life to education. And the the world they face today is so much different from the day when they graduated. If they have been out of the profession for such a long time, and if they are outdated in their knowledge, then it will not stand the students in good stead. It will be irresponsible to the students. We are positive that most of the teachers are up to scratch. So when we look at the practicing certificates, the impact on the serving teachers would be negligible. Now, as to the number of teachers who are out of service, we have 160,000 registered teachers in the data bank. Practicing teachers, the number stands at 70,000. As to the teachers who are not teaching, where are they? They may be continuing their education. They may be in other trades. They may be out of service for some personal reasons. So there may be a combination of reasons. Take myself, for instance. I am a registered teacher, but I'm not teaching in a school premises, but I'm also involved in business to do with education. So there are many teachers who may not necessarily be teaching in the day-to-day life, but they're still working in the education sector. Now, we will consider that. Now, for new graduates, they have the latest knowledge. And how can they get the practicing certificate? Now, it's important that they are employed and they have the registration, and then they would be entitled to the practicing certificate. So as to the implementation details, we will maintain close liaison with the education sector. We will also be in discussion with the DOJ and the legal profession. Speaker's not speaking through. Indeed, we do have the 3-year, 150-hour target. From the statistics, most of the teachers are surpassing the target in the training. For serving teachers, prospective teachers would like to have a really robust training requirements for them. And the teachers are fulfilling all these requirements. We are confident that this idea, this requirement of a practicing certificate is actually in response to the needs of the times. It is in response to the latest trend. Let me add about the policy address. The supplement is providing additional information to the policy address proper. It forms a part of the policy address. So you have to bear in mind this is very much part of the policy address. You have to read them together. SLW, let me address your question about the enhanced supplementary labor scheme. The CE made it very clear that we have to look at the context. And in 2018, our workforce has hit the peak. The workers are really getting on in years. The skilled workers, semi-skilled workers, 30% of them are approaching the age of 60. We appreciate that Hong Kong is undergoing economic transformation. In some sectors, they might experience more difficulties. So we'd like to focus on the sectors that are of more concern and put in place more specific requirements. At this side, 2 examples. Dishwashing, there are 1,800 dishwashers in Hong Kong. We're running short of people, and there are 900 people working in the egg and fish sector. In the laundry sector, we have 500 imported to Hong Kong, helping out. Now, we are concerned about the junior cooks and the waiters and waitresses. I would like to be more targeted to make sure that we will, first of all, give top priority to the local workers. It's only when we're running short that we will bring in the workers. As to for the carers, we have done so much over the years. Now we have to understand that the best help to the carers is to offer help to the person that they are caring for. So we're using our data to identify these people and offer targeted support. We give occasional care, temporary support, or temporary care so that they can have a respite. You mentioned the carers allowance. That's in relation to the low-income people. Now we're spending $400 million for 10,000 people. I think we have to use the resources judiciously. Where possible, we will offer our assistance, but we have to bear in mind the availability of resources.
In the interest of time, we will take the last two questions. The lady in the last row on the left.
First, as for the practicing certificate, how regularly will teachers have to renew the certificate? And why was there no consultation before the Bureau planned to do so? Which countries will the Bureau take reference to when formulating such a system? Second, the policy address suggests schools under direct subsidy scheme could expand their overseas students with student visas, but why mainland students are not allowed to be included in this initiative by loosening the requirement of student visas? Why government and aided schools are not included in this measure, as they also want to admit non-local students? Thank you very much.
So for the first question about the practicing certificate for the teachers, I think the details we will closely work together with the sector and also seek the legal advice. So we will announce the details when it's ready. And for why there's no consultation, I think we always keep a close contact with the different stakeholders on their expectations and requirements for the teachers professional. So we know that actually this is not a new thing. We have discussed so many times in the legislative chamber about the teachers professional, the teachers registration, etc. And for the why we open the or we extend direct subsidized schools to include to accept more non-local students on the basis of self-financing, or they have to pay the cost for the school fees. Because we, when we develop Hong Kong into an international education hub, the basic education sector always want to have some contributions in this part. And we think that the direct subsidized schools are more ready to take up more non-local students because they can provide non-local curriculum and the medium of instructions, and also some of the direct subsidized schools, they have the accommodations. So we think about the supporting measures, the readiness of the schools, so we start from the direct subsidized school. Why the non-local students exclude the students from mainland Macau and Taiwan? Because we have the mutual understanding or consensus with the mainland counterpart that we won't issue at this stage for the student visa for the minors. So there's no non-local students from the mainland under the age of 18. And for the, why not include the aided and government school at the stage? Because the aided and the government schools, they provide only local curriculum, and most of the schools are taught in Cantonese, or the medium of instructions are mother tongue. So for this time, we are targeted, and for the local students from overseas, I think the direct subsidized schools are more ready to take up this, and we are running this on a trial basis, and we will consolidate or conclude the experience to see if whether the aided and government schools can have the necessary supporting measures to taking care of the non-local students from overseas. Thank you.
好，最後一條提問，尾右手邊尾二嗰行中間。
The last question. The lady in green in the middle. Good afternoon. I'm from Economic Journal. I have a question for Dr. Christine Choi. According to LegCo members, the government did not consult LegCo members on the new practicing certificate system. Same when the government abolished the $2,500 student grant. I want to know whether the government consulted any bodies before rolling out this policy. Was there anything wrong with the communication between the government and LegCo members? Also, you mentioned that you expect teachers to pursue further professional development. Are there any requirements to be imposed on teachers in this regard? On the new policy initiatives mentioned, as mentioned, we will continue to communicate with the relevant stakeholders, including LegCo members. For policies that are included in the policy address, we may not have discussed in detail with these relevant LegCo members. As mentioned, there has been discussions about reviewing the teacher registration system, so this is not a new thing. We also undertook to review the registration system where appropriate. Of course, in terms of the implementation details, we will continue to communicate with the education sector on the requirements for teachers to pursue further professional development. This is not just confined to relevant subjects. For the latest mandatory reporting mechanism on child abuse, we want students to be updated about the relevant knowledge as well. Say, for example, if there are any new laws or problems that arise that concern children's mental health, for example, we want teachers to be aware of them as well. For teachers that have to take up management work apart from teaching, and for teachers to learn about the whole person development needs of students, we will include these subjects in the relevant training courses. This is the end of the press conference. Thank you. We report to the LegCo, but we don't have the relevant figures yet. As mentioned, the objective is to enhance the level of professionalism of teachers. Thank you. We have to get ready for the next press conference.
Welcome to the press conference on the 2025 policy address. We'll first take a few pictures. Almost done. So this session is on land and housing supply. Joining us are Secretary for Development, Ms. Bernadette Lin, Ms. Winnie Ho, who is the Secretary for Housing, Mr. Ricky Lau, the Permanent Secretary for Development, Ms. Doris Ho, also Permanent Secretary for Development, and the Deputy Secretary for Housing, Ms. Estrella Chang, along with the Permanent Secretary for Housing, Ms. Charmaine Li. So the two secretaries, the heads of bureaus, will tell you about the work in their respective purviews, and then we will come to a Q&A session. We will start with Ms. Bernadette Lin. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I will cover the policy measures under the latest PA on land. At yesterday's press conference, I briefed you on the measures about the northern metropolis. So today, I will focus on matters outside the northern metropolis. Some measures will apply to the NM for sure. Now, our forecast of spade-ready sites for the next 10 years. We want to give society a sense of our land supply. In recent years, we have been updating and announcing the spade-ready sites over the next 10 years. This is to give everyone a sense of the latest progress of land development. Land development has been satisfactory over the past few years. Based on the forecast from last year, this financial year is expected to produce 150 hectares of spade-ready sites. We are confident that we can meet the target. For this year, meaning 150 hectares, the land will come from mostly the Tongchong New Town extension and the northern metropolis. This financial year is about to end. So on this slide, you can see the forecast over the next 10 years. The spade-ready sites over the next 10 years are expected to amount to 2,600 hectares. 70% will come from the northern metropolis. In 2021, we announced the 2030 Plus study, Hong Kong 2030 Plus towards a planning vision and strategy transcending 2030. So when we look at the 30-year period all the way to 2048, we will need 7,000 hectares of land ready. You can do the math yourself. 7,000 hectares over 30 years, that means roughly 200 or so hectares per year. That's the annual average. And then you look at this 10-year forecast of developable land or spade-ready sites. Every year, we will have 260 hectares each year. That's the average. That's why we are broadly in line with our target. The projected spade-ready sites will meet our development needs. We will also have room to build up a healthy land reserve. I want to stress once again that getting sites ready does not mean we will roll out the sites or sell the sites or put the sites to use right away. We will have to bear in mind the market conditions, and then we will adjust our land sale strategy in an orderly, measured, and pragmatic way. So this is the 10-year forecast of site formation. This information will be on the website of the Development Bureau in due course. So as I said, 1,800 hectares will come from the northern metropolis. Outside the NM, we also have other land development projects such as Longkutan, Changguan-O areas 137 and 132. And also we have the Tongzhou New Town extension. Over the next 10 years, these projects will also give us 270 hectares of spade-ready sites. And that's already included in the 10-year forecast I just showed you. In recent years, much of our land development is about fostering industrial development. Over the past few months, you will have heard the scheme called the Hostels in the City scheme. The Development Bureau and the Education Bureau launched this scheme in July this year. So we're streamlining procedures. We encourage the market to convert existing commercial buildings into hostels for university students. From July till now, it's just around 2 months. We have already received more than 150 preliminary inquiries. And we have been assisting interested parties with submitting their applications. As at the middle of this month, we have received 9 applications. 5 out of the 9 formal applications have received the approval in principle from the EDB. These applications are about converting an entire building into a student hostel, and they are in Hongham, Kwun Tong, Shemshui, Mongkok, Wan Chai, and Shenwan. These are all in the urban areas. Most of these 9 applications are now office buildings. The Development Bureau's Development Project Facilitation Office will give assistance. Once these projects are approved, these projects will have to be completed within 18 months. For these 9 formal applications, if they work out and they're implemented based on what we know, they will be able to provide roughly 1,500 bed spaces. And because of this interest in the hostels in the city scheme, the chief executive also announced in his policy address that effective immediately, this scheme would be expanded, covering not just converting existing commercial buildings. On an existing commercial site, if you're building a new student hostel or you are tearing down an existing office building and turning it into a student hostel, you will also benefit under this scheme. For existing industrial buildings, if they meet the planning and lease conditions, and you convert that building into an office building, that office building will also be covered under the Hostels in the City scheme. This year, our Bureau will also reserve at least 3 new commercial sites in the urban area for building new student hostels. We will invite expressions of interest from the market in due course. Another task we are working on is giving support to the yacht economy. Now for 3 sites, the X-Lama Quarry site, the expansion area of the Aberdeen Typhoon Shelter, and the Hongham Station waterfront area, we put forward land plan proposals. Now for the X-Lama Quarry site and the expansion area of the Aberdeen Typhoon Shelter in particular, there will be berths. On that, we have invited expressions of interest from the market. The feedback has been positive, so we're going through the feedback. Our goal is that within the second half of next year, we will start the formal tendering for the X-Lama Quarry site. And then, for the expansion area of the Aberdeen Typhoon Shelter, we will start tendering for the berths and onshore facilities for Aberdeen in the first half of 2027 or before. We will also go to the Legislative Council for the funding to cover the works at the expanded area of the Aberdeen Typhoon Shelter. As for the Hongham Station waterfront area, we have also received a lot of feedback from the public. Much of it has been positive. So we're working towards kickstarting the statutory planning process in the second half of next year. There's a brief paragraph in the policy address on beautifying Lan Kwai Fong streetscape. I want to share my thoughts on this initiative. Our concept is to highlight a point. Urban renewal is not just about old buildings. For landmarks, icons, we want to do something about the streets, the walls. If these features are aging, they affect the appeal of Hong Kong. That's why we will pick Lan Kwai Fong as a place where the Development Bureau will coordinate the work across departments, including the Highways Department, the Architecture Services Department, and the Drainage Services Department. We want to improve the urban design at the micro level. We want to start the work. If the results are good, we will explore expanding this arrangement to other districts as well. For Lan Kwai Fong, for the year to come, we want to start with repaving of the carriageways, dressing up the refuse collection point, and using specialty manhole covers. So these are some quick win projects. We will start with those, and then for phase 2, we will cover the streets nearby. That's also going to involve some community making. Now I come to a key task, that is urban renewal. Our building stock is aging. The aging is happening fast. Over the past 10 years, each year, we got 500 extra buildings that was more than 50 years old. But redevelopment covered only 160 buildings per year. This is not to say every old building needs to be redeveloped. With proper maintenance, an old building can last for a long time. But the problem is, you get an extra 500 old buildings every year, whereas you only redevelop 160 buildings per year. This discrepancy warrants attention. And we also have to redouble our effort to encourage urban renewal. This is not just about encouraging the Urban Renewal Authority. We also want to encourage the private market to take part in the process. The policy address this year proposed policy measures on 3 fronts. First, as you can see on this slide, this is specifically for the URA. In the Northern Metropolis, in Kutong North and Fanning North, both being new development areas, we will set aside 3 residential sites for the URA for their future flat-for-flat schemes. Side land for the URA. You may wonder, some months ago, we granted 2 sites to the URA, one in Cheung Kwan O, Area 137. Another site was on Bailey Street in Hongham. We granted land to the URA. We also set out an expectation, and that was the URA will have to work with the Development Bureau on reviewing the acquisition and redevelopment policy. We want the URA to take a sustainable approach, sticking to that 7-year rule in compensation for a building that may be over 50 years old. Is not a sustainable practice. So a review is in order. And for building owners who will be affected, we want to give them more options. A flat-for-flat arrangement can be one of those options. Land for the URA for that sort of work. For that to work, we have to look at acquisition and redevelopment strategies as a whole. Our second measure is about relaxing the arrangement about transferring plot ratios. For those following the issue, you will know that in July 2023, there was a step taken at the Town Planning Board in Yau Chim, Yau Ma Tei, and Mong Kok. We allow the transfer of plot ratios in redevelopment projects within those two districts, Yau Ma Tei and Mong Kok. So say you redevelop a building in one of those areas and you do not use up the plot ratio. That remaining unused plot ratio can be transferred to a different site in the same district. That process will require the approval from the TPB. Where premium has to be paid, it will have to be paid. But the restriction is that the plot ratios can only be transferred within the same district. This time, we want to go further. This time, we want to allow the transfer of plot ratios across district. Our goal is to help the URA and private developers. We want to give them an extra incentive to engage in urban renewal. So in the future, we will explore the transfer of plot ratios. There may be some parameters, some restrictions on the transfer of plot ratios across sites, across districts, but we want to relax those restrictions. The third measure is an entirely new concept. You may recall that last year we enacted an amendment bill on compulsory sale of buildings. For 7 designated areas, we lowered the threshold for compulsory sale of buildings. In those 7 districts, you can see a concentration of old buildings. Now, of course, the URA will also focus on these 7 districts, but we also want to guide market forces to pay attention to those districts. So this entirely new concept goes like this. Say you have a private owner in an old building, and that building is in one of these 7 designated districts, and redevelopment comes along. We can give some plot ratio to this owner, and here's what it means. Let's say the maximum plot ratio based on the outline zoning plan is 7. And then on top of this plot ratio of 7, we recommend giving an extra 20% of gross floor area to this site. So this extra GFA can be used on the same site for a new building, or this extra GFA can go to a different site in the same district. If the landowner does not want the extra GFA and wants to hold on to the concession, the landowner will also have the option of turning the extra 20% of GFA into money. So we record the value of the GFA. We take a snapshot of the monetary value of that extra 20% of GFA. In the future, when there's a lease modification involving the same landowner, that monetary value can be deducted from the land premium. So why are we going so far? Why are we giving extra GFA, and why are we even converting the extra GFA into money for landowners? Here's our thinking. We want to promote redevelopment of old buildings in those 7 designated districts. Society as a whole, the public as a whole, will benefit in the end. That's because old buildings are aging fast. I have covered some measures concerning all districts. Many details are involved in the implementation. So on this front, we will be working with stakeholders such as READER and the industry. So in the first half of next year, we will work to implement these arrangements at that point. Another measure I want to briefly go over is this. There are many old industrial buildings in urban areas. We have the revitalization scheme for industrial buildings, but we feel that the time has come for a new round of study on existing industrial stock. So we will work to set out the recommendations within next year. Yesterday, I shared with you the concept of pay for what you build in premium payment. The pay for what you build approach also applies to redeveloping industrial buildings. And you don't have to wait for the conclusion of the area assessment of industrial land in the territory. Now, I want to quickly go over the next few slides. They have to do with cutting construction costs. Construction costs are high in Hong Kong, and we want to deal with this problem. We will speed up the approval and the vetting process for different steps. So you have public works, you have private projects within the Northern Metropolis and private projects outside the NM. Under the Development Bureau, there will be different officers in charge of different projects. They will be supervising the process. Another initiative, this is also related to construction time and costs. We're relaxing the GFA exemption arrangement for car parks in private developments. So in the future, when you build a car park on the ground level, as long as you stay within 2 stories, you get full GFA exemption. There will no longer be this mandatory requirement to build an underground car park for you to qualify for the exemption. We believe most private developments will benefit from this new initiative. Most private developments we have come across in recent years had to do with car parks of 2 stories or just 1 story. So you simply build on the ground floor, you build above ground, and you get the full exemption. The merit of this approach is that we can lower construction costs. You build a single story of car park above ground, and that costs only 60% of the single story of underground car park. And you can also save a year's time by building 2 stories above ground, as opposed to building 1 story underground. This is a decision we have reached after striking a balance with involving time. On reducing construction costs, we will launch the Project Cost Management Platform. This is for the Development Bureau to keep an eye on costs from end to end. We have also invited the Hong Kong Building Technology Institute to help us take a look at construction standards and costs. We will look at the load-bearing capacity of foundations and concrete strength. We will also try out central procurement for the modules, MIC modules. That is, we will start this in the beginning of next year. We will also strengthen project governance. We hope that even before we come to the funding stage, departments can adopt this ownership mindset. I'm sorry for overrunning now. I give the floor to Ms. Winnie Ho.
Thank you very much. After land, we talk about housing. Let me talk about the achievements over the past 3 years. We've done a lot. I'm sure you must be really familiar with this. Now we have the combination measures, the combination punches approach. We have reversed this backloaded situation. When we first took office, the total was 380,000, 1/3 in front, 2/3 at the back. Now we are reaching 60-40. We can cover 60% in the first 5 years and 40% in the last 5 years. So in 3 years' time, we have completely reversed this backloaded public housing supply situation. We have introduced the light public housing, 30,000, 4,400. We have surrendered the keys to the users. For 4,400, we can help 10,000 households. So this has produced tangible results. In the second half of 2025, there will be an additional 5,000 units. We'll have 10,000 units coming on stream this year. In 2026, another 20,000, close to the 30,000 target that we have. We have also shortened or capped the waiting time. The composite waiting time is 5.1 years. 1 year shorter than 6.1 years at the beginning. With 1 year shorter, people can save around $36,000 if they move into PRH, or $50,000 of rent if they move into LPH units. If you are living in the LPH units for 4 years, you can save anything up to $200,000. We use MIC for the LPH at Yau Pok Road and Choi Hing Road. We have manifested the beauty of this system within 1 single year. We have an 18-story project with 2,300 units. We have broken a record for rapid construction of high-rise buildings in Hong Kong. This is equipped with elevators. Now for the 2,300 people, they're all smiles when they're moving in. In terms of home ownership, we heard the aspiration for home ownership. We do have the package of measures. We are adjusting the ratio between PRH and SSF from 7:3 to 6:4. And there are many young people, many young families who really aspire to purchase the home ownership, the HOS flats. Now, for those who fail to get the HOS many times over, we let them have more chances. We give them additional ballots. For the young people, people under 40, we also give them extra ballot numbers. We also have the white form secondary market scheme. We have increased by 1,500. And all these are allocated to young family applicants and one-person applicants aged below 40. We also expedite the turnover of PRH tenants. We are encouraging the well-off tenants who have accumulated a lot of assets to pay additional rent close to the market rent. We're also incentivizing them to purchase the subsidized sale flats and move out of the rental housing so that their rental housing can be freed up for other needy people. Like the Development Bureau, we are all very keen to facilitate R&D and application. We have cooperated with NAMI to make sure that the MIC units or modules can be linked together faster. We have this MIC 2.0. Under this MIC 2.0, we also have the MIMEP. We're using the BIM enabled technology to make the design more efficient. We're introducing robotics to the site. We have seen some robotic competition, painting work, and so on. There are other usages. The DEVB has showcased some robotics for other purposes. Estate management, we have 83,000 households in the old housing estates. We also have new rental housing. The housing management is going to be very important. We have introduced a new technology to help with our work. We have the robots for security and cleansing. We also use AI to analyze the images to detect objects thrown from heights. We also have the IoT sensors and mobile devices so that the officers can have the details in the mobile devices. All they need to do is to take a photo and send it across to the office, and the record will be very clear with the location, the time, clearly recorded. Well-being Startup 2.0, my earrings, I bought them from these startups. They are well worth supporting. We put forward this idea for the young entrepreneurs to have an opportunity to showcase their potential. We allow them the discounted market rents. They may be selling ornaments and the health food and so on. The 1.0 program was very successful, and we're turning this into 2.0. And some shops in the housing authority would be granted to them on the basis of the discounted market rental. We have by the fourth year, they will be charged the full market rental. And we're also extending this to the private organizations. There are 16 private organizations that are supporting us. We have made available some shop spaces, and 50 or so shop spaces are added by the private sector, and some of them are pop-up stores. On the right-hand side, the one in which I was dressed in orange, they're making the paper craft, and this is made available by the private sector rent-free for the young people, young entrepreneurs. And when they are maturing, they will be collecting some rent off them. It has produced pretty good results. Some of the entrepreneurs are selling the game cards for the first month, and they managed to achieve a turnover of 6 digits, and this is well worth promoting. In the policy address 2025, we have a whole raft of measures and initiatives. We are enriching the housing ladder to encourage upward mobility. And housing supply, we are achieving pretty good results. For the 5-year period, we have produced 189,000 units, about 80% higher than when we took office. And we are producing more than 30,000 units per year, so the output is really a new high over the past 10 years. And in 2026-27, we are moving towards 4.5 years of waiting time. Like public housing, some of them have been completed. There are 5,000 more, and this year we have 10,000, 20,000 more. Next year we're moving closer to 30,000. And in 2027, we should have a leftover of about 200 units. Enrich the housing ladder to encourage upward mobility, and we're making the housing ladder more stable, more healthy, and for green form and white form ratio, we're adjusting the ratio from 60% 40-60 to 50-50. At the next WSM exercise, we will be increasing the quota by 1,000. Last year, it was 6,000. Now we're adding another 1,000 to take it to 7,000. Half of them will be devoted to one-person applicants under 40. Now, when we issue the approval letters, we may be coinciding with the HOS allocation, and some would be giving up on the chances. About 15-20% of the offer letters were wasted. So we are increasing the number of approval letters to make sure that the quota would be used more effectively. And people are aspiring to get on the housing ladder. They would like to have larger units, in particular those in the PRH units. They like to improve their living conditions. And they like to have 300-400 square feet of 2-3 bedroom flats. We like to increase the proportion of this. At the moment, the assignment or alienation restriction is 15 years, and we are relaxing the alienation restriction period of new SSF for sale in open market to 10 years to encourage upward mobility. There are two policies regarding the owners of subsidized sale flats. After paying the relevant fees, and they can let the unit to eligible white form applicants. Previously, they were only allowed to lease it to those waiting for PRH. Now, there may be people who are eligible for HOS, but they cannot make it, and they can choose to live in the rented white form units. So we are fixing the quota at 3,000 to start with. The other policy is the flat-for-flat scheme for elderly owners. It is a good scheme, and we are enhancing the scheme. We also allow the owners to move to other districts for smaller units. And some young families would prefer to live in the urban areas, and some elderly people would like to move to the extended urban areas upon retirement. It is a pretty good idea for them to move across to the extended urban areas, and they can trade down to a smaller units. When they first move in, maybe they move in with a number of kids. When the kids have grown up and moved out, the old couples might figure that it would be a good idea for them to move into smaller units and cash in on the larger units. It would be a good idea for them, so we encourage them to move to smaller units. There will be plenty of supply in the public housing, and we have to control the costs. We have a deputy director leading the project facilitation office. And this is a facilitator as well as an enabler. At the deputy director and the assistant director level, there would be coordination, and they would be putting the heads together to speed up the projects and control the costs. Prompting completion, the idea is to make sure that we can complete a certain number of units within a certain time frame. Some projects might proceed faster or slower. If they fall behind, we have to make sure that they will be catching up to make sure that they will be able to meet the target. This is the idea of prompting the completion. And building materials, and we are extending the scheme to building materials, and they can use the database. And we would also align the standards to make sure that they cover all the commonly used materials. MIC modules, we will consider batch procurement to better control the costs and the standards. And the process can also be expedited that way. Leveraging technology. Now, this is the self-developed, BIM-enabled, systematic approach to foundation design. This can save the construction costs. With this system, each block can save us $1 billion. In the northern metropolis, if we have 20 projects, 100 units, we can save as much as $100 million. If you're interested, I can talk a lot more about that. I'm grateful to my colleague, Permanent Secretary Mr. Lau, the BD, the CDD, the HD are examining the rock features in the northern metropolis. We are using a specific design to increase the loading of this kind of rock. And if you pose questions later on, I can elaborate further on this. Robotics, we will specify where we will be deploying robotics. I'll be very quick. Basic housing units, in a month's time, we will be aiming to introduce, to commence this in March 2026. And this is a very important step of bringing into place the BHUs. And we will be inviting the owners to register and then to improve and upgrade. And this long-standing problem of subdivided units will be disappearing from Hong Kong. We are getting on with a lot of redevelopment work, 11 ones. Wafu, Choi Hong, cases in point. There are 7,000 units in Choi Hong, 9,000 in Choi Hong. Now, to move them elsewhere, we have to build the decanting housing estates and the reception housing estates. Last year, we talked about Ma Chau Wai Estate, Sai Wan Estate. This year, we announced the redevelopment plan for Ma Chau Wai and Sai Wan. This year, we also have selected the oldest housing estate in Hong Kong, and that is the model housing estates. There's some of them 71 years old, and it is difficult to patch up the defects, and it is very costly. We have to face up to this redevelopment of the old housing estates. So much for my presentation. Let's work hard and enrich the housing ladder to encourage upward mobility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We now open the floor for questions. Please put up your hand if you want to put questions. Please limit yourself to 2 questions. The one in white. I'm from Oriental Daily. A question for the Development Bureau. Ms. Bernadette Lin, you said this time you are going far to promote redevelopment. You're taking a range of measures to get developers to help out with urban renewal. How many cases do we see private developers assisting with urban renewal? Is it because of a poor market response? And is that the reason behind these incentives? My second question is for the Housing Bureau. And that has to do with the central procurement of MIC modules. So where will these modules be used? Will future light public housing and public rental housing units be using these MIC modules? This matter falls under the heading lowering construction cost. So will that translate into lower home prices? How far will that reduce home prices in the future? On your first question, on the desire and participation of the private sector in urban renewal, 2 factors are at play. First, market conditions and the broader economy. The property market has not been at its best over the past 2 years. So mergers and acquisition as well as redevelopment have slowed. The compulsory sale figures have slowed down a bit, but we have seen some uptick recently. A major factor is the broader economy. Another factor affecting this desire for redevelopment is systemic. When we look at redevelopment, you look at the old buildings, you look at the capacity and density. Those old buildings may not be up to the standards of our modern OZP standards. The plot ratio of old buildings may be as high as 17. You may be aware of what I'm talking about. Sometimes the plot ratio may be 17. We try to allow a redeveloped building to keep the old plot ratio. But for our new planning rules, there are building height restrictions. There are caps on the building density. So that means you cannot replicate the same density after redevelopment. In this context, without any government incentive, developers may not want to go ahead with such redevelopment. That's why we're launching measures. These measures address some constraints about old buildings. So we will talk to the industry. We want to see the projects implemented. We'll try to drive this process. Your other question has to do with central or batch procurement. The journalist asked a great question. When we were building the light public housing, the Architectural Services Department was in charge of the project. The ASD used batch procurement for the MIC modules. The modules were 20% cheaper. So there is merit in this approach. The Housing Authority is looking at the MIC modules. They're trying to learn from the experience of the ASD. Of course, some changes may have to be made when the Housing Authority procures the modules. They will find a way that suits their situation. As I said publicly, in the next 5-year period, half of our projects will adopt MIC or modular integrated construction. In fact, the number of projects may go slightly above the 50% mark. And I also want to explain a point further. When we sell our subsidized sale flat, the prices are linked to people's means. When we sell our SSFs, we look at the median income of the low-income families. We assume that these medium to low-income families use 40% of their household income to pay off their mortgages. So the prices of the SSFs are not linked to the construction costs. But of course, for me, lowering the construction costs also matters. This is because the Housing Authority also has to maintain its financial robustness. We're working on this, and I'm very grateful to my colleagues for coming up with so many ways to save money. Next question. The one in the white shirt.
Morning Post. With the government planning to allocate an additional 30 billion for infrastructure project, how will this affect the government financial stability, and also what types of projects could be expected from this funding? And any of the construction project would apply the mainland construction standard apart from the Northern Link. And given the government's long-term agreement with LIV Govt, does this mean the government has given up this site as housing supply? Thank you.
Okay, perhaps the Development Bureau will take all the 3 questions. I would later on invite Permanent Secretary for Works to take care of your question regarding the building standards of projects, whether mainland standards will be used. As regards your first question is about the allocation of an additional $30 billion within 2 to 3 years for us to do capital works projects. To repeat a bit of background, we have already announced that for the next 5 years, including the current financial year, the average capital works expenditure each year will be $120 billion. So what has been announced recently is that for 2 to 3 years, if you divide the $30 billion over 2 to 3 years, that will be an additional 10 or 20. Then we will be on top of the average of $120 billion as a budget for us to plan our public works projects. As to how the annual expenditure will be used, we normally announce that in the context of the annual estimates. But our initial thinking is that with an additional $30 billion, and that additional is earmarked with the interests of the small and medium enterprises in mind. So we will try to use the additional budget to roll out more public works projects which are relatively smaller in scale and will provide businesses for the SMEs, such as the repair and upgrading of our water pipes, the repair and upgrading of our roads, and also our piers. So just examples of categories that we'll be thinking of. As regards your last question about the future use of the Fanling golf course, I think the situation basically remained the same. That is for the 30 hectares or so, which have been reverted to the government and is now government land, is under the care of a government department. As and when the Live Golf and the Golf Club, they have contacts in Hong Kong and they would like to use that part of the government land as well to support the competition, we will be most happy to do so. And this has also been done before. As regards the future of the rest of the golf course, which is still now run as a golf club, we will take into account the results of the judicial review that is ongoing. But the hearing is scheduled for sometime next year. So still some time to go. But basically, it's the status quo for now. Ricky.
Thank you, Secretary. As regard the construction standard, we are open to refer or to adopt any international standard, including the national standard. In brief, construction standard, we are talking about the design standard, the product standard. So now we are reviewing the Hong Kong design standard of the construction works through engaging the building technology and research institutes. We will make reference to the international and national standard and to ensure that we maintain the safe construction quality and also with cost-effective standards. So we will review every design standard in Hong Kong, but the first batch will include about 15 items which are most impactful to the construction cost. And from which 2 of them, as mentioned earlier by the Secretary, is about the concrete strength and the foundation, the bedrock bearing capacity. They are most important one, we think. So these 2 will be completed in the first half of the next year. As regard to the product, existing, currently we have the mechanism to use or to adopt new materials and new products, including those cost-effective products from the mainland China. But we can see some room for improvement. For example, under the existing mechanism, the submission of the new material or product shall be under a project. And also, this approval will be used by individual project teams. So whenever there is a new product, you have to go through from project team to project team if you want to have a wider adoption. Now we have engaged BTRI, Building Technology and Research Institutes, to set up central inventory for these approved materials and products, through which we can accept the application from the supplier or the contractor before any project. That means even though you don't have a project in hand, you have a new material, you have a new product, very cost effective from anywhere, including the mainland China, you can apply for it. And then we will check against our standard. If it is compliant with the standard, we will include it in the list. So for other project members of the individual teams, they can make reference to their list and to adopt the materials or products very conveniently, which can make the cost-effective products from the mainland or elsewhere widely adopted in the whole industry, and so we can reduce the construction cost as a whole. Thank you.
下一個
The one in blue, please. Economic Journal. 2 questions, if I may, about redevelopment. The 7 designated districts, 20% additional plot ratio. At the moment, under the OZP, let's say it is 10. Does it mean that they can go up to 12 in terms of plot ratio if they do not use the 2 plot ratio? And if they want to build a commercial residential building, do they need to transfer the additional plot ratio elsewhere? And what about the premium across districts? Do they have to pay the premium? Another question also about the redevelopment. You said a moment ago that people can keep the additional plot ratio for conversion into cash, that the plot price can drop by 30% within a couple of years. And how does it work in reality? Thank you very much. 2 questions also about the operational details. If you're talking about an old district site, to cite an example, for example, in To Kwa Wan, there is an old building site at the moment under the OZP. Now, this is only for example. For argument's sake, the PR is 10, like you said a moment ago. To Kwa Wan is one of the designated districts because there is a high concentration of old buildings, and we would give away 10% of the plot ratio. Like you said, it would mean 2 plot ratio. At the moment is 10, 20%. It would be additional 2. Now they can, after fulfilling the TPB vetting, use the additional plot ratio on the site. It can go up to a plot ratio 12, or the 2 can be transferred to other development site in hand. It can be Northern Metropolis. It can be outside the Northern Metropolis. If they transfer the plot ratio, what we incline to think is they have the plot ratio and they transfer the number numerically, and we will not consider whether this is commercial premises or residential premises, or whether they are transferring this to other nature. This is a simple practice. When we talk with the sector, if they were to say that we should be more specific, we should not just talk about the sheer number, we should also take into account the nature of the transfer. Residential may be different from commercial in terms of value, and we're open to options there. Second, if the owner were to decide not to transfer the plot ratio, they would convert that into cash. Now let's go back to the To Kwa Wan example. How much would that additional plot ratio be worth? There would be a validity period applied to it. We cannot keep that ad infinitum without it being used. If this is kept for too long a time, the valuation may not be applicable. It may not be relevant to the market. So we would be specifying a validity period beyond which there would not be any extra PR on record. Now, how long should it be? We are only too happy to discuss with the trade, but definitely there will be a validity period. Any further questions? Yes, the one in black, please. Singtao Daily, 2 questions, also about urban renewal. Now we can see there is the cross-district transfer of plot ratio, and this is arising from the Yao Mong project. Now you are extending this to other districts for cross-district transfer. Would it be too big a step? Now you're encouraging redevelopment, and you have the extra plot ratio. How can you balance the need for urban redevelopment? There are 3 sites allocated to Urban Renewal Authority. Are you going to be supporting the URA or, in this way? With this impinge on the government's finances? That the URA would be rebuilding sustainably. How can you reconcile this with the 7-year period?
So all 3 questions about redevelopment. First, the question about transferring plot ratios across districts. The journalist asked the question about how we strike a balance between that and town planning. We now have transferring plot ratios within the same district. Now and in the future, you cannot just transfer the ratios on a whim. Any such transfer has to go through the town planning board. The TPB will act as a gatekeeper. We want to go from transferring plot ratios from within the district to across district for a reason. You can think about Yau Ma Tei and Mong Kok. If you allow transferring plot ratios across within the district and you want to stay within the planning requirements, you can only go that far in transferring the plot ratios within the district. If we allow transferring across district, we can provide a greater incentive for redevelopment. When a transfer does happen, the TPB is there to act as gatekeeper, and when premium is needed, we will calculate the rate of premium fairly. So we believe this is in the public interest. Now, on granting sites to the URA, we gave the URA 2 sites for no consideration, and now we are giving the URA another 3 sites, and the journalist wondered if that would affect the government's financial position. Let's bear in mind that the URA is a statutory body. It's a partner of the government. The URA works within a rigorous framework. When the URA undertakes a redevelopment project, it is not just for profit. The URA also provides community facilities. And the URA is still compensating affected owners based on the 7-year rule. So the URA is under immense financial strain. Given that the URA is such a good partner of the government, we cannot just ask the URA to do the heavy lifting of redevelopment without giving them the resources. The government is also under financial strain, but we can provide land as a form of resources. That's why we insist on keeping up our effort to create land. So we want to find a way to support the URA without adding to our own expenditure. That's why we're granting the site. Now, on whether we have a timetable for reviewing compensation for acquisition based on the 7-year rule, we're inviting the URA to conduct a full review of the acquisition strategy for urban redevelopment. We hope we can conclude the review and come up with recommendations for public consultation within next year. Last question, the one in blue. I'm from Hong Kong Commercial Daily. A few questions for Ms. Winnie Ho. So we heard about the change in the split of GSH flats to white form flats. Will that hurt the chances of white form applicants for flats? The government has also been evicting well-off tenants. And those well-off tenants will get to keep their green form status for 4 years. Will priority go to these well-off tenants with green form status so that they can move out of their PLH flat sooner? Now, I also have a question about the flat for flat scheme. So people can go for a flat in a remote region and they give up their original flat. How do we distinguish between the core areas and the remote areas? Can you tell us how you draw the line? I thank this journalist for his questions. First, the split of green form and white form flats. So our suggestion is to go from 6 green, 4 white to half-half. So 5 for each kind of applicant. In the next 5 years, there will be more flats. HUS flats plus housing society flats, we will be up to 58,000 flats. In the first 5-year period of the current term government, we were at 39,000 flats, and we will go up to 58,000 flats. That's a sizable increase. So whether you're a white form applicant or a green form applicant, you are now getting a much better chance in getting a flat. Your chance has improved by as much as 25%. So for prospective home buyers, please keep a lookout for our subsidized sale flats. Public housing or subsidized sale flats is in the same situation as lands. We will keep producing units. Now we have a few strategies. So we will move closer to the market rent for well-off tenants. Well-off tenants now have to pay 2.5 times of the rent or 3.5 times of the rent instead of just twice or 3 times the rent. So now well-off tenants are paying a rent closer to the market rent. So with the higher rent, those well-off tenants can do the math. They can leave with a green form status for 4 years. There will also be more green form flats. So we take all these measures to encourage tenants to become owners. I'm sure we're all aware of the benefits of owning the property. You own the flat, you pay the premium, you can even resell the flat in the secondary market. There is even another secondary market for selling the flat with the premium unpaid. You can pass on the flat. Now for the flat for flat scheme, What do we mean by core areas and remote areas? We have a distinction. For public rental housing, you have the urban areas, you have the extended urban areas, you have the new territories or outlying islands. Anyone moving to a different district or going for a small flat would benefit. That concludes the press briefing today. Thank you.